What if the wildest old movies weren't just fiction, but blueprints for the weird world we're living in now? Some films didn't just predict the future, they practically handed us the instruction manual, warning and mocking us at the same time. But here's the kicker. Most people missed the message. So, how many warnings can you spot before reality catches up? Stick around, because you're about to discover 10 overlooked classics that read the future like a tabloid headline, and you won't believe which ones made the list. Alphaville, 1965. Picture this: a city where poetry is a crime, emotion is outlawed, and the loudest voice in the room belongs to a computer named Alpha 60, a machine that's less Siri and more Big Brother with a nicotine addiction. Welcome to Alphaville, a film so bizarre and stylized that even most science fiction fans forget it ever existed. But if you want a glimpse of a future where artificial intelligence doesn't just serve us, it runs the whole show. Alphaville saw it coming decades before Silicon Valley was a punchline. French New Wave rebel Jean-Luc Godard took the detective noir, stripped it of its glamour, and dropped it into a city ruled by logic and surveillance. Let me caution, the trench-coated anti-hero stumbles through neon-lit corridors and endless concrete, dodging goons who spout algorithmic nonsense about unnecessary feelings. Here, the all-powerful computer has replaced art, history, even human warmth with cold, mathematical precision. Citizens live in fear of saying the wrong word or, God forbid, falling in love. If you think that sounds melodramatic, take a look at your nearest dating app algorithm. The film's hypnotic, dreamlike visuals are all style, but the substance hits like a gut punch. Alphaville's warnings about AI policing our thoughts and automating our existence feel like last month's tech headlines. Goddard asked, "What do we lose when we let technology decide what's efficient, what's valuable, what's real?" He didn't have social media, deepfakes, or facial recognition. He just had a hunch, and wow, was he on the money. Alphaville is a fever dream wrapped in a prophecy. Sure, it's weird, but it's also terrifyingly on the nose. Every time an algorithm recommends your next purchase, filters your feed, or tells you which headline matters, you're living in Goddard's future, one bureaucratic click at a time. It's not just a film, it's a dare. Will you fight for your own humanity, or let the code make you obsolete? In Alphaville, the biggest rebellion is to care. In our world, that might just be true, too. The Day the Earth Stood Still, 1951. A flying saucer lands smack in the middle of Washington, D.C. The world freezes. Soldiers close in, news crews swarm, and the president's phone rings off the hook. Out steps Klaatu, calm, cryptic, looking like he's about to sell you life insurance, but his message is anything but comforting. Unite, or face the consequences. In the day the Earth stood still, humanity's paranoia meets its match, and the stakes are nothing less than total annihilation. On the surface, this is classic Cold War stuff. The world is teetering on the brink of nuclear war, and everyone's got their finger on the button. But look closer, and you'll see this movie predicted something way bigger. Our future obsession with global crises, and the growing need for unity in the face of threats we can't handle alone. Klaatu isn't here for your leaders, he's here for the whole species. And he's brought Gort, a robot with enough firepower to turn any city into a parking lot if we don't get our act together. Sound extreme? Flash forward. Pandemics that don't care about borders, climate change melting the ice caps, rogue AIs with agendas nobody understands. Every decade since this film dropped, there's been a new reason for the world to either pull together or blow itself apart. The message? Our petty divisions are luxuries we can't afford anymore. And here's the twist. The film doesn't end with triumphant unity or a tidy Hollywood solution. Klaatu warns us, shows us the door, and leaves us to our own devices. Literally, it's up to us. Will we cooperate or collapse? Will we recognize the threat before it's too late, or do we need a 7-foot-tall robot to force us into a group hug? The day the Earth stood still, saw past the bomb shelters and duck and cover drills. It saw a future where the only way out is together. 70 years later, its challenge is more urgent than ever. And if you think aliens are far-fetched, just look at the nightly news. Global threats are everywhere, but we still haven't figured out how to work as one. Maybe, just maybe, the flying saucer is overdue. Fahrenheit 451, 1966. What if your neighborhood firemen didn't put out fires, they started them? And what if their job wasn't saving lives, but torching every book in sight. Fahrenheit 451 wasn't just a dystopian fantasy from Ray Bradbury and director Francois Truffaut, it was a siren screaming about censorship, fake happiness, and the death of critical thinking. In this world, knowledge is outlawed, curiosity is dangerous, and all the answers you'll ever need scroll by on giant screens that never shut up. Here's where it gets wild. Back in 1966, most people thought book burning was the mark of a far-off dictatorship or a medieval mistake. But Truffaut saw the future for what it could be, a society obsessed with comfort and convenience, where discomfort and real conversation get thrown on the fire. The protagonist, Guy Montag, is the ultimate company man, until a spark, pun intended, of curiosity makes him question everything. Why is everyone so numb? Why do the screens keep blaring the same shallow nonsense? Why is reading so dangerous? Fast forward to now. Sure, books aren't being torched on street corners, but information is filtered, banned, or algorithmically buried before it ever reaches your eyeballs. Social media echo chambers reinforce your favorite opinions. News is packaged for maximum comfort, not challenge. And if you think endless entertainment makes us happy, just count how many times you've mindlessly scrolled to avoid thinking about anything too real. That's the real burn. Fahrenheit 451 didn't just warn about censorship, it nailed the rise of media that keeps us numb and docile, and the growing fear of uncomfortable truths. Montag's rebellion isn't just about grabbing a book, it's about waking up, asking questions, and refusing to be lulled by noise. The film's ending is bittersweet. Exiles memorizing books, passing down knowledge in secret, hoping that someday the world will be ready to listen again. So the next time you swipe past a headline or silence a disagreeable voice, ask yourself, are you fueling the fire or fighting it? Fahrenheit 451 didn't just light up the screen, it set a trap for the future. The real question, are you brave enough to step out of the smoke? Forbidden Planet, 1956. Take Shakespeare's The Tempest, swap the island for a distant planet, and crank up the atomic age paranoia. What do you get? Forbidden Planet, the sci-fi classic that disguised a warning about technology running amok as a pulpy space adventure. It was the 1950s, so you'd expect rubber monsters and ray guns, but nobody was ready for the real horror lurking behind all that mid-century chrome. Dr. Morbius and his daughter seem to live alone on Altair 4, guarded by the charming, ultra-competent Robbie the Robot. But beneath the surface, there's a hidden relic, the Krell machine, a vast alien computer that can bring your deepest desires to life. No rules, no limits, just pure wish fulfillment at the speed of thought. But as the bodies pile up, the terrifying truth emerges. The machine's miracles are creating monsters, not just from the subconscious, but from the ugliest corners of the human mind. Sound familiar? It should. Today, our technology can already deliver instant gratification. VR worlds give us what we want. AI can craft our fantasies and curate every digital pleasure. But who controls these machines? What happens when the system starts responding to the worst in us, not the best? Forbidden Planet asks, are we ready to face the monsters in our own heads, or will we get lost in a playground of our darkest impulses? The movie's special effects and jazzy electronic soundtrack were groundbreaking, but the real prophecy was psychological. A future where the greatest danger isn't from aliens, but from ourselves, amplified by our own inventions. The Krell machine didn't have to be evil. It just had to be powerful enough to let us destroy ourselves. And the punchline? Dr. Morbius thought he was in control. He wasn't. The technology served the subconscious, not the conscious mind. That's a warning that lands harder with every new device we invent. When we build our dreams into machines, are we unleashing our nightmares too? Forbidden Planet handed us the blueprints for disaster. Now it's up to us to rewrite the ending. The Manchurian Candidate, 1962. Imagine waking up and realizing that your memories might not even be your own. The Manchurian Candidate isn't just a paranoid Cold War thriller, it's a psychological minefield where nothing and no one can be trusted. When it dropped in 1962, most people thought brainwashing was pulp fiction, a concept for pulp magazines and spy novels. But this movie wasn't here to soothe anyone's nerves. The setup is pure genius. American POWs return from Korea, but something is off. One is a war hero, another is haunted by nightmares. As the story unfolds, we learn the hero has been turned into a sleeper agent, programmed to assassinate with a single command, a Manchurian puppet whose every move is controlled by his handlers. Political conspiracy, media manipulation, secret societies, the works. Director John Frankenheimer shot the film in stark black and white, cranking up the unease until even the audience starts to question what's real and what's manufactured. Fast forward to today, and the Manchurian Candidate feels less like a relic and more like the morning headlines. Think about it. Social media bots manipulate elections, deepfakes put words into politicians' mouths, and propaganda can be pumped into the collective bloodstream with the click of a button. Who's programming your reality? Are your memories, opinions, and firm beliefs actually your own, or did you pick them up from a carefully tailored info feed? The film's twisty plot isn't just about mind control, it's about the weaponization of trust. If you can't trust your own thoughts, who can you trust? The Manchurian Candidate asks, what's scarier, having your enemies against you, or your friends and family weaponized without even knowing it? When everything is a potential setup, paranoia is the only defense. The ending is as dark as it gets. Redemption is possible, but only after the ultimate sacrifice. In the end, the film's message is clear. The real danger isn't just what others do to us, but what we let ourselves believe, unchallenged. In the age of viral lies and manufactured outrage, the Manchurian Candidate is less a period piece and more a prophetic slap in the face. Wake up before someone else decides what you're dreaming. On the Beach, 1959. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you're among the last people on Earth, just waiting for a slow-motion apocalypse. That's the chilling world of On the Beach, a film that traded mushroom clouds and last-minute heroics for a quiet, suffocating dread. Released in 1959 at the height of atomic fever, this movie didn't bother with action hero fantasies. It offered something far scarier. A world where humanity's worst fears play out with the cold logic of science. The premise is simple but devastating. Nuclear war has already happened. The Northern Hemisphere is dead, and the deadly radiation cloud is drifting south. Australia is one of the last places left, and the characters, sailors, scientists, everyday families spend their final weeks clinging to routines and false hope as the end creeps closer. There's no miracle cure, no last-minute rescue. Just denial, resignation, and the aching realization that human arrogance brought them here. What makes On the Beach so eerily prophetic? For one, it recognized early that global threats don't stop at borders. The fallout, both literal and metaphorical, is shared by everyone. Fast forward, today's headlines are filled with environmental disasters, climate change warnings, and a growing sense that if the planet goes down, we're all passengers on the same sinking ship. The film's portrayal of hope and false hope rings painfully true in a world that debates, delays, and distracts while the clock ticks down. Director Stanley Kramer didn't give the audience easy answers. Instead, he forced viewers to sit with uncomfortable truths. What do you do when there's no escape? When denial is the only comfort? Some choose to party, others cling to work or love. The quiet courage, the small acts of kindness, they're all that's left in a world running out of tomorrows. On the Beach wasn't made for popcorn munching. It was designed to haunt you, to gnaw at your conscience. In a world where the end often feels one tweet or bad decision away, the film's greatest prophecy is its relentless honesty. We might not see the end coming, but we'll definitely feel it when it arrives. The question is, what do we do with the time we have left? Seconds, 1966. What if you could trade in your life for a new one? Body, face, career, even friends, no questions asked. That's the premise of Seconds, a film that snuck in as a psychological thriller but ended up predicting the era of endless reinvention and the cult of youth. John Frankenheimer, already the king of cinematic paranoia, delivered a nightmare wrapped in a dream. A secret organization that gives desperate people second chances, courtesy of surgery, subterfuge, and a total identity overhaul. The film's protagonist, Arthur Hamilton, is a middle-aged man with a solid job, a bored wife, and a soul-sucking routine. Enter the mysterious company, who erase his identity, carves him into a new face played with haunting desperation by Rock Hudson, and sets him loose in California with a new name and a new life. For a moment, it's paradise, youth, creativity, endless possibility. But the cracks appear fast. Friendships feel hollow. Love is just another mask, and the company's control is total. No one who joins ever leaves for real. It's a setup that feels light years ahead of its time. Today, plastic surgery is a billion-dollar industry. Social media filters let us reinvent ourselves daily. Whole careers are built on the fantasy of transformation. But at what cost? Seconds nails the existential dread at the heart of the makeover culture. If you can become anyone, can you ever be yourself again? When does self-improvement turn into self-erasure? Frankenheimer's direction is claustrophobic and surreal, with twisted camera angles and nightmarish dream sequences that put you right inside Hamilton's unraveling mind. It's not just body horror, it's soul horror. And the ending? No spoilers, but let's just say that in this new world of endless options, freedom comes with a price. Second is the original warning shot for the age of cosmetic obsession, digital personas, and endless self-editing. If you've ever stared into the filter app and wondered, what if I really could start over? This film already lived out the answer, and it isn't pretty. In a culture that promises second chances, Seconds asks, what's left of you after the mask comes off? A Face in the Crowd, 1957. What if a nobody could become an overnight sensation, then turn the entire country upside down, one broadcast at a time? Long before viral tweets and influencer scandals, A Face in the Crowd showed America just how dangerous a charismatic outsider with a microphone could be. Directed by Elia Kazan and starring a shockingly unhinged Andy Griffith, this film was less a satire and more a prophecy, one that hits even harder in today's world of meme lords and reality TV politicians. The story kicks off with Larry Lonesome Rhodes, a hard-drinking drifter who's discovered in a rural Arkansas jail. Overnight, his folksy charm and tell-it-like-it-is rants turn him into a media darling. Soon, Rhodes is everywhere: radio, TV, advertisements, and political rallies, building a devoted following by playing the everyman while manipulating everyone in his path. He's authentic, sure, but only when the cameras are rolling. Off-screen, he's a scheming, egomaniacal monster. Face in the Crowd was made in the 1950s, but it reads like a how-to manual for the media age. Rhodes masters the art of performance, weaponizing his personal brand to sell soap and, eventually, candidates. As his power grows, politicians and executives scramble to ride his coattails. The lines between truth and entertainment blur until they're impossible to separate. Sound familiar? Turn on any cable news channel, scroll your favorite feed, and you'll see echoes of Rhodes everywhere. Today's culture rewards the loudest voices, the wildest stunts, and the most outrageous personalities. Social media algorithms amplify outrage and spectacle, turning regular people into demagogues in a matter of days. But Face in the Crowd went one step further. It showed that eventually the mask slips. The real danger isn't just the media star, it's the audience that keeps tuning in, long after they should know better. Kazan's direction is razor sharp, but it's Andy Griffith's performance, part preacher, part carnival barker, all snake oil, that makes this film unforgettable. In a world where anyone can go viral and charisma trumps character, A Face in the Crowd predicted our love affair with populist power and the monster it could unleash. So, next time you see an overnight sensation riding a wave of likes and shares, ask yourself, who's really pulling the strings, the star or the crowd that made him? The Time Machine, 1960. Let's talk about a future that's less flying cars, more social collapse, and somehow even more relevant now than when it first flickered on the big screen. The Time Machine, based on H.G. Wells's immortal novel, took audiences for a spin through centuries of history and landed them right in the middle of a world split in two. Forget utopia. This is a cautionary tale about what happens when technology advances, but society refuses to keep up. George, our dapper time-traveling inventor, rockets through time to discover the Eloi, childlike, docile, and living in apparent bliss on the surface of a ruined Earth. Below them, hidden in the darkness, are the Morlocks, pale, menacing, and running the show. The Eloi reap the rewards but do none of the work. The Morlocks toil, maintain the machinery, and harvest the Eloi like cattle. It's brutal, it's chilling, and it's a perfect metaphor for a society that lets wealth and comfort blind it to growing inequality and decay beneath the surface. Why does the time machine feel prophetic? Because it saw what happens when we forget the hard lessons of history. Economic divides deepen, technological progress masks social stagnation, and a comfortable few become so disconnected from the rest that they can't see disaster coming until it's too late. The Eloi's innocence is their downfall. Without struggle or curiosity, they're little more than livestock for the next crisis. Fast forward to today, and you can see the cracks everywhere. The richest live in gated communities, real or digital, while the systems that keep society humming are run by increasingly invisible hands. We binge on the latest tech, but how many of us could fix our own plumbing, let alone our own politics? The Time Machine was supposed to be a fantasy, but it might as well be a warning label slapped on the 21st century. Wells' story isn't just about the danger of social division. It's about what happens when progress is on autopilot and nobody's steering the ship. The Time Machine dares us to look beyond our comfort, ask hard questions, and remember that the future isn't written for us. It's built by us, one uncomfortable choice at a time. Ignore the lesson and you might just wake up Eloi. Fail safe. 1964. No monsters, no aliens, just a phone call, a blip on a screen, and the chilling realization that the fate of the world hangs on a glitch. That's the horror at the heart of Fail Safe, the film that took all the atomic-era anxiety of the 1960s and cranked it up to existential terror. In this story, it's not villains or saboteurs who threaten humanity. It's the machines we built to keep us safe. The setup is as simple as it is nightmarish. An American bomber group is accidentally ordered to nuke Moscow after a technical malfunction sends the wrong signal. The president, generals, and civilian advisors scramble to stop the attack, but they're fighting a system that's too fast, too complex, and too automated for human hands to override. The tension doesn't come from ticking bombs or cackling villains, it comes from the helplessness of watching your own safety net strangle you. What makes Failsafe feel like a vision of the future is how eerily it anticipated the rise of automation, computer errors, and the terrifying consequences of systems designed to run without question. When the tech goes haywire, the humans are powerless, left to plead, negotiate, and, ultimately, make choices no one should ever face. In a world that trusts algorithms to run power grids, financial markets, and even military defense, that chill down your spine is well earned. The performances are stripped down, the black and white cinematography is stark, and the moral questions are ruthless. Would you sacrifice a city to save the world? Can you ever trust a machine with a decision that big? Fail. Safe dares you to stare down the ultimate what if, and then leaves you to sit with the answer. And here's the kicker. Decades later, we're still building bigger, faster, more inscrutable systems, convinced that a fail-safe is enough to protect us from ourselves. The movie's ultimate warning? The more you trust the machine, the less you can afford a single mistake. In a world where disaster might come from a typo or a silent software bug, Failsafe asks, are we building our own destruction, one upgrade at a time? The countdown's still ticking. So there you have it. 10 forgotten films that read the future better than a room full of experts ever could. From AI dictators to media monsters, these movies didn't just predict our world, they tried to warn us, and most of us hit mute. But it's not too late to learn. Drop your wildest movie predictions in the comments, smash that subscribe button, and remember, in cinema, the past is never dead, and the future is always watching. What's your move?